Welcome back to another episode of Psycosmos. Today we have Kassidy, Phelps, and we're going to discuss some things about politics and spirituality.
So I found you on TikTok first. It was like a week or two before you got banned.
Yeah.
And then when you got banned, I was like, where's this great creator? Just talking about all this cool stuff that I don't really see people talking about.
Right.
You mentioned in one of your TikToks, something about like recently discovering your spirituality.
Yes.
Could you dive into that a little bit to give us like a little bit of your background?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start there. So I guess the best way I know how to describe it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you guys my truth, how it happened to me, how it came upon, and just what I know to be true. And so basically what happened was what I had my spiritual awakening, right? And the best way I knew how to describe it to the people that were closest to me was that like my soul woke up and there was, something felt different. I saw the world differently. I started to see the world in a way that through the eyes of like seeing energy, right? And so I actually, I come from a religious family, so I am actually baptized Mormon. So my family, my dad is LDS, so a Latter-day Saint, right? Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a Mormon. And my mom is not, she's just Christian. And so I grew up with like a Christianity background, and I grew up, I was baptized when I was 8 years old into the Mormon religion. And I always felt like I believe there is a lot of good that can come from religion, don't get me wrong. And I believe that there are a lot of really good teachings on, morals and values and standards to live up to and, those kinds of things. But I never really felt like it was all there. Like I felt like I believed in some of the doctrine through church and, the Mormon doctrine. And I believed in, I believe in Christ and I believe in God and those things. But I just felt like there was something, it was just never fully there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was I started, one month last year is when it started. It was in maybe like August or September. I was building my new house. And so I was living in my parents' basement at the time. And I remember I started to see things. And by things, I mean, whatever you want to call it a spirit, you want to call it an energy. I call it energy. So I started to see these things. And so I would wake up in the middle of the night between like 3 and 4 a.m. And people like to call that the devil's hour, right? Or things like that. And so it doesn't have to be the devil's hour. It can just be a spiritual hour. And so I started to see, I would wake up and I would start to see these entities or these like, the best way I know how to describe it is it's almost like it's almost like seeing energy in the air, like a transparent, translucent type of energies. I don't really know the kinds of words to use to describe it, but it's like seeing not really a ghost, but seeing an energy or seeing the spirit. And it freaked me out at first because I was like, what the hell am I seeing? Like, what is this? And so for the longest time, I had a hard time sleeping and wanting to go to sleep because I knew I was going to wake up and start seeing these things. And then it gradually started happening during the day. And I started to see different energy forces around people. And, I started to feel different things when I would be around different kinds of people. Like, for instance, if I was around somebody that was maybe vibrating at like a lower frequency of, maybe despair and regret and anger or frustration or whatever, I could physically feel that from them. And I could start to feel their angst and their anguish. And then if I was around somebody who was vibrating at a higher frequency and they were, vibrating of light and love and gratitude and abundance, those things, I could physically feel that from them. Crap is happening to me. Like, this is so weird. This is so out of, because everything we're taught in conventional education, through when we grow up, even through religion, like this stuff is woo-woo, weird, crazy type talk. But the reality is this is the real stuff, and we're just taught garbage our entire lives. And so, along with all of this, and seeing these spirits and starting to feel these energies, I started to feel. So the closer I am connected to somebody, the easier it is for me to A, tap into their energy and feel their energy, and B, take that energy from them if it's a bad energy. And so, like, for instance, pain. When people feel pain, physical pain, my best friend, I actually say she has a headache or say she has an ache in her leg or whatever. If I concentrate and focus on that long enough, you guys, I can take that on. I can physically pull that away from her and take it onto myself and then release it. It's the wildest thing
Really
I have
cool.
ever experienced in my life. Like most of the time when she has a headache, she'll call me and she'll be like, hey, I have a really bad headache. And I'm like, I got you. And so I just like, I don't know, the longer we talk on the phone, the milder her headache becomes. I start to get that headache. And then eventually I've pulled the headache away from her. I now have the headache. And then I do what I need to do to go ahead and release that pain. And it's just a crazy thing. And so along with this like spiritual awakening came hours and hours and hours of research, right? And I am a paralegal by trade. And so I have the tools at my disposal and the training at my disposal of how to get to the truth, how to take a piece of information that comes across my desk and discover through doing legal research, legal due diligence, whether or not that piece of information is true or false. I have to do it in my job every day of my life. I have to take documents and I have to prove whether or not in this supply chain that document is completely accurate. And so that's what I started doing with, through this spiritual awakening, I started to see clearer what was going on in the political realm. And I was like, all right, I'm seeing a lot of bullshit going on, which I never really, I've kind of always wanted to get involved in politics and kind of always thought it was interesting, but never really took the time to dive into politics. And so through this awakening, I was like, okay, I started seeing things on different news stations. They were completely opposite of each other. And I was like, okay, which one is the truth, right? So I started taking that information and going about myself and just sifting through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pages of documents, whether it was declassified documentation that came straight from the government, declassified documentation through the FBI, through the CIA, FOIA requests, grandma requests, all kinds of documentation, through the legal PACER is the nationwide database that all states use for housing all of their pleadings and their legal stuff. And so I have access to that. I have access to different states. And so with all of this and the way that my world was starting to change and the way I was starting to see things differently, I was like, okay, things aren't adding up. Things aren't making sense. And so that's when I went to books and I just discovered an entire whirlwind of shit that I just was like, you have got to be kidding me. I found, I found all of these truths that have been hidden so far away from us for so many decades because of the cabal, right? Because of the global elites, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Bilderbergs, all of them that have been trying to control the world and perform this one world government, the New World Order, and things started to click, puzzle pieces started to fit together and things started to happen. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And so I just, over the course of, 10-ish months, I spent hundreds of hours inside these documents trying to figure out what the hell was going on in the world. And then along with that was the spiritual awakening that I was encountering and things like I said, taking people's pains away. I started to see these energies. I started to feel people's energies. I can read people's energies now. I can feel if they're good. I can feel if they're bad. I can feel if they're vibrating lower or higher. Clairaudient. I don't know if you guys know what clairaudient is, but the ringing in my ears, when I start to hear the ringing in my ears, so many people are like, oh, that's tinnitus. Bullshit. No, it's not. It's my higher self speaking to me. And so if I tap into that and I listen to the ringing in my ears, and what I have to do is I have to tell them, hey, slow down. I have these spirit guides, right? You have these my higher self, my spirit guides, my angels that help bring this information down to me as I'm vibrating at this level of consciousness. And that ringing in my ears comes, and I have to listen so closely, and I have to tell them, okay, slow down, come down into my consciousness so I can understand what it is you need to tell me right now. Understand what it is that you're trying to speak to me. Sometimes it's very simple stuff like go this way to the grocery store instead of this way, and I avoided an accident, or, just random things like that. And sometimes it's bigger things like, hey, you need to get a hold of this person. A lot of times this ringing happens, and I hear this soft whisper in my head that says, reach out to so-and-so. And I'm like, well, why? What for? I reached out to that person. They needed somebody to vent to, and I was able to take on that that for them, you know? I hear what others I'm connected to. This is the craziest thing. This is probably one of my favorite things. So I can hear if I'm really connected to somebody, and there's two people right now that I am very spiritually connected to, and that's my best friend and then my husband. And I'm connected, and I can hear what they hear when they're somewhere else. So every once in a while, I'll start hearing, like, for instance, Clayton was watching the Jazz game, and I wasn't watching the Jazz game. And so for a brief moment, about 7 seconds, I could hear the TV that he was listening to, the Jazz game that he was listening to, when we were not even in the same house at that time. Wow. And so that's probably one of my favorite things is, and it doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, I'm just like, no freaking way. So then I'll text him, I'll be like, hey, were you just watching the Jazz game? Like, yeah, a lot. Oh yeah, because I just heard you watching the Jazz game. You know, it's kind of cool. And then claircognizant, right? That's like a clear knowing. You just know when something is true through these feelings, right? You want to call them psychic feelings, that's fine. Psychic feelings without any information to back it up. And so I've gotten to a place right now where I can tell if something is true or not just by connecting with my inner self and listening to the way the energy vibrates inside my body. So if I'm listening to something or reading something or hearing somebody speak, and if the vibrations of the energy inside my body start to get really excited, almost sending like these shock waves throughout my body, I know that whatever it is that I just heard or saw to be absolute truth. And vice versa, if it feels empty and it starts to vibrate really low, slow, almost kind of like a cold, empty feeling, I can tell it's false, right? So my gut feelings are always right. I can always tell when somebody's lying. This is all new to me, you guys. This stuff it's so hard for somebody who believed in a world prior to what I know now. It's like this stuff is, no, you only see this stuff in the movies, right? Well, of course you only see this stuff in the movies because they want you to think that it's all baloney and it's all fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I said, I receive those messages in my mind sometimes. Like sometimes I'll just think like, oh, hey, my friend so-and-so is pregnant. And 2 weeks later they announce that they're pregnant. How the hell would I know that? Well, I don't know. Word in my mind told me that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I can finish people's sentences. Like I know what they're going to say before they're even going to say it. I know the outcome of so many situations before they happen. Most of the time, well, I can watch a movie, I can watch the beginning of a movie, and I know the outcome of the end of the movie before I've even seen, 15 minutes of the movie. I can go to sleep sometimes thinking of these like super complex problems in my head, whether it's related to work or politics or spirituality or whatever, and I'll wake up with a clear answer in my head because overnight my consciousness was doing its work and doing whatever it needed to do to get that answer to me. Deja vu, I have deja vu all the time, and I pick up on new skills very easily. So all of this wraps up into this spiritual awakening, that I had where, like I said, my soul woke up and I realized, and I'm starting to remember why I came down to be a mortal body here on Earth.
It sounds like your journey is very similar to the one that we've had over the last couple of years. We kind of all grew up together. We all knew each other. And as we kind of went through the years, we were starting to become a lot more different than a lot of the other friends that we had, even our family members, a lot of people. So we kind of collectively joined together, and we're trying to solve a lot of major world problems. But I know that individually we've each had, if you want to label them as like these very odd psychic experiences that not a lot of other people really understand. I hear you totally. Like I've had little semblances of little things. You sound like, I'll be honest, you sound like you're a lot more confident in understanding these abilities that you have than we do, because we'll have like these very odd things happen to us, or thoughts or anything like that, and it's very cool for us because we're still, like you said, it's a brand new world, so we're kind of learning, we're marinating in it, we're learning how to manipulate like the different types of things that we can do or see or anything like that, but yeah, that was a very awesome introduction. But thank you for sharing your spiritual kind of nature with us, because it's very fun to see when people talk about it and they express themselves, and they're able to have these these meaningful experiences, which not a lot of people who are much more lower on the vibrational plane get to experience. So yeah, that's really cool. But I know Tyler had some stuff that he wanted to ask, and if I don't stop, I'll talk forever.
I get that way too.
Um, Going off of the spirituality, did you have any advice that, I mean, if anybody else listening
Mhm.
is going through something similar, do you have any advice that could help them through their experiences?
Yeah, well, it's hard. It's hard because I struggle with it too. I'm not going to sit here and say that I have my perfect, I'm perfect in all of this. And I definitely have my moments where I fall back a little bit. But the biggest piece of advice that I would want to share with people is to not fear. The lowest vibration that we could vibe at, that we could be, vibrating at, is fear.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why it is so, I see so much fear mongering pushed in the media. That is all they do, fear mongering. They push that fear. They push you to stay in your homes. They push you to put your masks on. They push you to stay 6 feet apart, because if you are fearful, you are vibrating at a lower frequency, and that is the easiest way for them to control us. It's the easiest way to gain control over somebody.
Yes.
And so, like I said, in the beginning for me, I was so scared, you guys. I remember waking up, and for the first, I would say, few weeks of it, I just thought, shit, my parents' house is freaking haunted. TikTok has a wealth of knowledge, as you guys know, Tyler. That's how you found me. TikTok has a wealth of knowledge, and I started getting myself put into these algorithms on TikTok, where I was starting to see these energy workers and these light workers, and them talking about their spiritual journeys, just like I was having, and gaining that network of those people that could help me understand as I was going through it too. But the biggest thing we all try and push is to vibe high of love, light, gratitude, abundance. Just vibe at those higher frequencies. I know it's hard. It's not easy to never be fearful.
No,
but
it's very hard. It's
so
difficult.
hard, especially seeing what's going on right now. That's why I do my best to stay out of the mainstream media narrative.
Oh, 100%.
Even in the political realm right now, even with the Republican Party and the political party and the QAnons and all of that going on, I still try to stay above that.
Yes.
Not because I'm better than that, but because if I let myself get down into the nitty gritty, into the weeds of it all, like, I keep myself apprised, right? I keep myself apprised of what's going on. But I don't like to get lost in the weeds like so many other TikTok content creators and Instagram content creators on the political world right now. They tend to get so lost in those weeds, and to get, I don't know if you guys know that saying where when you're standing in the forest and you're standing too close to the tree, if you just bring yourself up over into like an aerial view, you can see so much more than if you're standing right in front of that tree.
Right.
So the way I like to put it is, there are two movies going on in the world right now, you guys. Only one of them is real, and the other one is a fake bullshit baloney circus that's going on in the media. And that's exactly what it is. You have this real life going on where we are collectively working to raise the consciousness of the world and to put us back on track for what we would all consider world peace that we've never experienced in our lives, right? For decades and decades. The global cabal and the elite and the Illuminati and the Freemasons have just kept us vibrating at such fearful, negative frequencies that it's hard to come out of those things.
We're cattle to them.
Exactly. We're cattle, we're chattel, we're slaves.
Yep.
That's all we are to them, is we're indoctrinated slaves, brainwashed by the masses. It's disgusting.
Yep.
So my biggest piece of advice is to try not to fear. And when you're feeling that fear, physically make it leave your body. Like, there are so many times where I'll cleanse my energy throughout the day, where I will physically tell myself, either in my head or out loud, I do not accept the negative vibrational frequencies. I do not accept negativity into my life. Any vibrations that are vibrating lower than the highest of divinity and the highest white light, I do not accept. And then I physically feel those. Like, just right now, I just felt a few leave me. Apparently I had some negative energies hanging out.
Yep, I do the exact same thing.
Yeah. And so try and always be aware and be, cognizant of how you are vibrating, how you are feeling. Are you feeling fearful, or are you feeling positive and of gratitude and things like that? And then along with that, you guys, the food we eat, everything that we know that we have been taught through the educational system is okay. Almost everything is a lie.
Yes.
It's all bullshit.
Yes.
And so the food we eat, you guys, is intended to make us sick. The preservatives they put in food, the chemicals and toxins they put in food, the processed foods, I mean, everything, even the nutrients in the soil that we have these days isn't as good as it used to be because of so much chemicals and toxins that have been put in them. And it's hard to find food these days that is totally good for your body and good for your energy, right? Mm-hmm. And so people like to say, I think most people in the spiritual world live like a plant-based diet. And that's probably the biggest thing that I struggle with because I haven't been able to get myself there yet. You know, I have every intention of getting myself to this plant-based diet and to eat things that are good for me, that are good for my energy, and that don't, you know, keep me vibrating at lower frequencies. But it's hard. It's definitely hard for sure.
Oh, 100%. The diet thing is a big thing. I mean, we are really trying, and we do the same thing. You know, we're young guys, so we like our cheeseburgers and things like that every once in a while. But we're really trying to get onto the path of a more vegetarian-based diet. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to eliminate certain things altogether. But even when you study like the mechanics of our teeth. We're really supposed to be getting a majority of our protein from nut-based sources, not really meat-based sources. And
100%.
And it's not even necessarily that meat is 100% bad for you all the time. It's just that when you eat meat, you lower your vibrations, and almost all the meat that today is saturated in garbage. So
absolute garbage.
So there's really, it's very difficult. Like, you know, it's very difficult to get an actual good slab of meat that's not going to poison you, and almost everything that you can get at a restaurant, you know, especially fast food restaurants, but even some of the lower ones that are chain restaurants, it's hard to find actual sustenance from those things. So we even go out of our way to shell out extra money to eat properly. It's still hard for us too. We completely understand where you're coming from with that.
Well, I mean, it's an entire lifestyle change, right? And it's not even a lifestyle change. It's an entire, like, bigger than even just a lifestyle change. It's changing your entire reality to understand that actually, you know, these kinds of foods aren't good for you, and they're the ones that give us the heart diseases and the cancers and the diabetes and the what have you, and then the medicines that they push through Western medicine keep you sick, keep you ill, so that you'll then turn around and buy the medications that they made to, quote, cure you from that illness, which then in turn make you sicker. Like, it's just a never-ending cycle of lies and deceit.
Exactly. And that really goes into a lot of the politics of today. And I know Tyler had some questions that he wanted to follow up with that on.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you brought up, like, there's 2 movies going on right now, and one of them is real. Would you want to dive into, like, what's going on with, like, the election audits and what's going on with that? Because I know a lot's going on right now, especially these past few days.
Yeah, especially the past week, I would say, for sure. Yeah, I love to hear more of what you have to say about the big fake movie that we're watching right now in real time.
Yeah, well, so the biggest thing I want people to understand is Biden is not the president.
100%.
That man's not even alive, first of all. Joseph Biden Jr. is not even alive. You're watching actors, you guys. You have Hollywood elites that yet haven't been arrested and haven't gone through their military tribunals. The few that are left. And then you have clones, because whether you want to believe it or not, every single Hollywood actor, actress, producer, director, what have you, has been cloned in order to get into the 1%.
And the ones that don't comply are often killed. I have my own theories on stuff like that. Like Robin Williams, I think, is a great example.
Robin Williams, you have Michael Jackson, right. You have Elvis Presley, you have JFK Jr., you have help me out, the Fast and Furious movies.
Paul Walker?
Yeah.
Paul Walker.
Isaac Cappy.
Brittany Murphy, Cappy.
Yep. Isaac Cappy was a big one.
People who died of, quote, drug overdoses. Bullshit.
Right.
Come on.
Right. Or suicides or whatever.
That, though, right?
Right. It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And so anyway, what you're seeing is this skit, this clown circus being shown in the media, in the mainstream media.
Love it.
What was that?
I love how you're describing it. It is a clown circus. I'm laughing because you're 100% correct.
It's so, and see, there's so many people that, this is what I say, don't get lost in the weeds. There are so many people that are still so concerned with what's going on. Like, yes, it's bad. What's happening at the border right now is bad. Yes, there are election audits going on that they are trying so hard to not allow to happen. And there are these things that are happening that can get us put back down into those negative vibrations. And you just have to see through it. You have to see through the bullshit. And so, you have President Trump, right? He was the actual legally appointed, legally voted in president of the restored constitutional republic of the United States.
Yes.
And then you have this fake Joe Biden, who was elected the CEO or the president of a defunct, dissolved, bankrupt corporate company of the United States of America. And that's the difference. And that is the cold, hard truth. Okay. They changed the Constitution back in 1871. The Organic Act of 1871. They changed it into a corporation, made it into business, an LLC, that they could use us as their slaves to pay them back their debts that they owed to the foreign bankers, the central bankers, and the foreign corrupt crime syndicates of the world.
Right, which leads back into the cabal.
They all flow up to the same disgusting satanic evil that this world was plagued with for so long. And so right now you're seeing these election audits go on, right? So you have these full forensic audits. It's called an FFA. So right now, all of the audits that are happening right now, none of them are actually considered what's called a full forensic audit. So Maricopa County, for instance, they did a partial forensic audit. It's about like 75% of what a full forensic audit would be. And so I'll just explain a little bit what a full forensic audit means, if that's right. But what it is it's more of an in-depth, comprehensive investigation into the voting accuracy, into the accuracy of what happened through the election. So there's actually never been a full forensic audit done for any state, any county, or any precinct ever, right? And so the three things that they do during a full forensic audit is they recount. Okay, they double check all of the math was correct, all of the numbers are accurate, which if you have been in the world that I've been in for so long, you know that it's mathematically and statistically impossible that Joe Biden received the votes he did.
Right.
Mathematically,
statistically. It makes absolutely no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Makes no sense. It doesn't add up. It does not add up mathematically at all. It's statistically impossible for him to get the amount of votes that he did. There were more votes for the people registered to vote. It makes no sense.
None of it makes sense. None of it is statistically possible. Not even possible. And then the next thing they do is that it's canvassing, right? So canvassing is when you verify that none of the ballots were lost, right? So you had all of these ballots that you were seeing when the election was happening, where you were seeing people posting videos that were going all over in the back channels of, TikTok, Instagram, Telegram, what have you, where they were finding ballots in ditches and in dumpsters, and you were finding ballots all over in what are they called? Shipping containers and things like that. Just so canvassing is verifying that none of those ballots were actually lost, right? And so then you have the certification process, which that is legislative. That's like the stamp of approval, right? And so with these full forensic audits, you have the legitimacy of the voter, of the machine, and of the ballot process. So it's all encompassing, and make sure that you literally, from point A to point B, there was no change.
Right.
Did all of the eligible citizens vote, and did they only vote once? Well, we know that to not be true already, right? Did the machines accurately report all of the ballots received, or did they make any changes to it? Well, we know that definitely happened. Did the third parties, were there third parties involved? Did they illegally change or delete the legitimate ballots? Yes, we know this, right?
Right.
And so the best thing about, this is one of the best things about President Trump. I love that man.
Yes.
He watermarked the ballots, you guys.
Yes.
He watermarked them.
Yeah, so that was going to be my question. That was actually going to be one of the questions that I had. I not only did I see that as a speculative rumor back, I want to say around January, maybe even December. But recently there was a picture that was going around social media of somebody who had one of the watermarked ballots. And both Tyler and one of our other team members, Dan, they both went to school for filmography, so they've been taught how to train their eyes to see photoshops and things of that nature, and they believe that at least Dan believes that the photo is at least legitimate, that it doesn't look photoshopped. So
right. Oh yeah, 100%. Those watermarks are absolutely true, because it was all a part of the sting operation.
The sting operation that Trump put in place because he knew they were going to cheat. Right. They knew they were. They knew that.
He's been planning this since 2017.
Right. Exactly.
The man has been planning this election and how they were going to catch them in the act, which they caught them every step of the way, caught them. And that's what I want people to take out of this. If whoever's listening to this and if they're feeling fearful in any way, just understand that good has already won, guys. The good has already won. It's just a matter of time before they weed out all of the rest of the bad that are left, but are still doing everything in their power to prevent this stuff from happening.
Yes. Well said. Well said.
Yeah. So it was the greatest sting operation the world has ever seen. And I just can't wait for the rest of the world to wake up to it and to see it, because it's going to be a really glorious day for a lot of us, but it's also going to be a really hard and eye-opening day for others. And so we just have to remember that, for myself, I have to remember I've been living in this world now for so long and seeing the truth for so long that when this all does come out, there are going to be people who were as devastated as I was 10 months ago, right? When I was crying myself to sleep, realizing these truths and just coming to these truths where I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, there's no way this world is this evil.
Right.
Well, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah, and it's going to suck for those people because they're not putting, I really do think the effort on the part of the individual does play a big role in the spiritual awakening process, because
for sure.
I think every single person has the ability to tune into that, but it's their choices that they make and the amount of effort that they put into it to actually try to understand it.
Well, and it's so easy too, though, you guys, to go on a Google search and like, for instance, the ringing in my ears, right? It's so easy for me to go on Google and be like, what does my ears mean? Oh, it's tinnitus.
Right.
Okay, boom, I have an answer. No.
You got to go deeper.
And understand that actually, maybe, just maybe, that's your, what people who still, like Christianity, they believe in the Holy Ghost. I believe in the Holy Ghost, right? And so they believe, you want this, you have this ringing in your ear, and then you have this quiet whisper. A lot of people like to consider that the Holy Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us consider that it's all the same to me. You have the Holy Ghost, my higher self, my higher being. You have the source of all, and it's God, Christ.
Right.
But it's so easy, like I said, just in a simple Google search, or like deja vu. What does deja vu mean? A simple Google search will tell you some bullshit, whatever. And so I agree with you. It's up to everybody on their own. And in the beginning of all this, I started sharing a lot of the political part of it on my Facebook, and I would just get censored. I just constantly kept getting censored. And then I had people from my real life. At one point I had my freaking high school science teacher commenting on one of my posts telling me that I need to get real.
Yeah.
To get back into reality.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, it's so easy for you to say that, to say, like, get back into reality. Well, guess what? Your reality has been lying to you for your entire life.
Yep, and it's hard for people to want to admit. I mean, not to cut you off, but I do want to share. I mean, back when a lot of this stuff was coming out, I want to say all last year during COVID, I was posting things on my Instagram. All last year during the election, I was posting documentation. I was posting the court cases from Florida where the United States corporation went bankrupt and they filed for bankruptcy. All that stuff, and yet I would get the most rude, and also, I mean, I'm just going to flat out say it, the most unintelligent people from my hometown. Exactly. Basically reaching out, they're the most brainwashed, and they're telling me that I'm an idiot. I had one guy call me a Nazi because I was sharing things about the cabal and the Sabbatean Frankist kind of cult-like ideology that had consumed a lot of people, because it's all this crap that and at the end of the day, they don't understand. They don't want to awaken to it. I'm posting legitimate evidence. I'm not just posting my opinion. I was posting legitimate case documents. I was posting I was posting government documentation, CIA, FBI, all this stuff that had been declassified, and I was getting on the ball because I'm in tech. So you're on the legal side, and you know how to work the technology. I know how to work the technology to find the stuff that I'm looking for. So I was trying to share this stuff with friends and family members, and a lot of people just rejected it. A lot of people didn't want to hear it. They kept using the same arguments. Well, Trump's a racist, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're brainwashed. You're not thinking critically.
Well, you know what that is, right? That's a cognitive dissonance.
That's exactly what I said. That is,
if any kind of
yes.
friction in their mind goes against the narrative that they've known or the belief system, right? We all grow up with these belief systems that we have that we've either been given when we were young or throughout college or throughout high school or whatever. We've got these belief systems, and the minute something goes against that, the minute a narrative goes against that, it's so easy for our brains to switch. That cognitive dissonance says, no, that goes against your belief system. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. Well, that, in the beginning for me, it was the same way. I was like, there's no freaking way. Right. There's no way this stuff is true. Well, I pushed past that cognitive dissonance, and then cognitive resonance, sunk in. And then things started to resonate with me, like with the energies and the frequencies that I was feeling. Things were starting to make sense. Truth was starting to be understood. And I was like, holy crap. But they're not willing to push past that cognitive dissonance in the beginning because it's everything that they've been taught. It's outside of everything they've ever been taught, everything they've ever known. So I get it. It's hard.
Yeah, I think it even goes back to the whole education. It's like we're taught these specific set of ideas. And it's
indoctrination.
It's just pushed on us. And I was having this conversation with our other teammate Dan, and it was like they could teach us so much more to prepare us for the real world.
Right.
It's like they're going to teach us all these things we don't need when they could teach us like how to balance a checkbook, how to balance a budget.
I was just going to say taxes, how to file your taxes, which, by the way, income taxes are voluntary. Nobody ever freaking knows that.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, why would they teach you how to do your taxes when they make it so complicated and so hard? Because it's easy for them to. The entire tax system is set up as to benefit them and to hurt us, right? And so they control every aspect of how we live through indoctrination in the educational system.
Yes.
It's just sick, you guys.
Yes. Oh, for sure. We completely agree. The educational system has really failed us, and I mean, I'll just be upfront with you. The educational system has really failed us. I mean, we're in our late 20s, so I don't know if that puts into reference how old we are compared to yourself, but we just recently kind of came out of the ringer as far as college and everything else goes, and I can tell you personally that it's a joke. I mean, most of the kids are cheating through. 100%. Most of the kids are cheating through college these days. It's not teaching you anything on how to actually survive, and then they're just putting a giant target on your back with all of the student loan debt. Because again, you're cattle. You're there to work and die. I mean, that's really all you are to them. And it's also a way of like soul manipulation and soul harvesting. If you really want to get into a metaphysical sense of it, the lower the vibrations are, and the worse that the situations are for people, and the more greedy that they are, then the more it adds the fuel to the fire of creating that negative human consciousness. And if it gets so low, then they can just take over, and that's it. And that's really what they're gunning for. So I love to be able to speak with people like you, Kassidy, because you seem like you really get it from the perspective of raising those vibrations, but also seeking out the truth. And the truth is a very fickle thing, and a lot of people are lost in it. They can't find the truth. And it seems like you're similarly in the way that we see ourselves as truth seekers, you're doing the exact same thing. So you're making our life easier by
right.
helping us understand what we've been searching for and looking into as well. So I couldn't be more grateful to have this time with you and to talk with you about these things. But I know that.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful.
Oh, of course, thank you. Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to, is we're trying to find more people who are like-minded like ourselves, who are we're looking past the veil. We're lifting the veil, and we're seeing right through it, and we're seeing all the BS. And we really are. All we're trying to do, like, we're not trying to be conspiracy theorists, even though that's what people are labeling us as, or Nazis, or whatever the fuck else. We're really trying to help people. We're trying to help them be happy, live really well adapted lives, and a lot of people that we know are just rejecting it. They're outright rejecting it. They want to live in this fantasy world where they're shooting poison into their bodies for Krispy Kreme donuts and weed. Like, it makes no sense.
I can't. Don't even get me started on that garbage.
Oh yeah, I know. Actually, I know we wanted to ask you. I know Tyler, he actually brought it up. So I'll let him ask it, but it was pertaining to a lot of this political implication stuff. As far as like the timing, that's you said you had a question on that.
So like, when do you think a lot of like these big truths are going to be revealed to us? If you have a timeline, or if you knew.
Because obviously we've heard 2 more weeks for the last 6 months, but we've also seen things like tomorrow or 4th of July or August. You know, people are saying he'll be back in office by August, or the truth will come out. I don't care if it takes years, because right now this is just a hysterical shit show to me. I mean, Biden's doing way worse than I thought he could ever possibly have done, and there are people who are on that side that are still, you know, doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on their opinions. So it's kind of crazy to see. But yeah, sorry to cut Tyler off, but yeah.
No, you're good. Yeah, as far as timelines are concerned, it's so hard to talk about a specific time or a specific date, you know, because in the beginning, back before the election, you know, I thought it was going to be election day. I thought, or inauguration day, excuse me. I thought inauguration to be the day where things became full circle. And then a couple of days after inauguration, we come to find out there were forces working against us the entire time, that we didn't know. You know, we thought they were white hats. They weren't white hats. They were actually working for the cabal the entire time. So there's just so much that has to happen, and there was so much that had to happen worldwide. It's not just, hey, we're trying to save America. It's no, hey, we're trying to save the world at this point. We're trying to raise consciousness, and we're trying to raise the vibrations of the entire earth. This is not just about a U.S. election problem anymore.
Right.
And so, like you said, you know, tomorrow's Trump's birthday, right? June 14th. I've heard that that's supposed to be a significant day. Do you think that's when they're going to announce the election results, the election audit results in Maricopa County in Arizona? That's one rumor going around. Yeah, like you said, 4th of July, that's definitely another rumor going around. I'd like to sit here and say that I have a certain date, but you know, the reality of the situation is I only think very, very few, very small handful, even less than 5 people are going to know the exact day and time that things are going to happen.
You're
we're going
right.
to have a podcast system that's going to happen. Come to find out, I've been waiting for that, you know, every Sunday. So there's just so many things that have to go right before it can all just be completely exposed, right?
Yes.
So like the first part of June was very important, because you had the largest number of arrests for the mafias in Italy and Germany that were happening in the first part of June. You know, that's had to happen. The quantum financial system still, like, yes, it's live, but it's not completely there yet, right? That in and of itself is a consciousness. It's not just artificial intelligence. You can go on a quick Google search, a quick DuckDuckGo search, and type in the quantum financial system and Gasara or Nasara,
right?
And there's so much misinformation. I mean, with good intentions, don't get me wrong, but there's so much misinformation, because the quantum financial system, it is so far above our comprehension level that it actually has a consciousness of its own.
Yes.
This is not just artificial intelligence, you guys. It has a consciousness.
Yep.
And so.
And I keep telling people, when they shift to that quantum financial system, the people who are left behind are really going to get left behind.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, is it goes back to us talking about these people have to come to these truths on their own. They have to wake up on their own. But for the beginning of my journey, I thought for sure, like, okay, I've been called to wake people up. Like, that's what I first thought in the first, like, 3 to 5 months of me experiencing this. And I did. I woke up a few of my very close friends, and, you know, Clayton and things like that. Like, I woke them up to understanding the bare minimum of what's going on, right? Not the deeper level stuff, because I'm still trying to learn and discover those things on my own as well. But I thought for the longest time, I'm supposed to wake people up. Well, you know, no, I'm not. And everybody is going to come to their own awakening on their own time. And as hard as it is for me to come to grip the reality that, like, for instance, my parents are my biggest supporters. I love them so much. I am so grateful for them, but they're still so asleep, you know. They while they believe in a lot of the same things I believe in, as far as like the political realm and that kind of stuff, and Trump, and they're very much Trump supporters, things like that. They're still very in the weeds, like I like to call it, as far as the political realm. They still very much believe that, oh, well, we lost this election and it is what it is.
Oh, I know.
Why would it be bad for you if it's coming from scientists
my
and things
family's
like that?
the same way. I feel your pain
It's
so much. It's the most depressing fucking thing.
It is. That's exactly what it is. I will never forget, you guys, when this was all happening to me, and I received this confirmation through spiritual means that Christ's consciousness was coming back. That's what it is.
Yes.
You guys, we talk about us raising this consciousness and us raising into this 5D awareness and ascending into a higher level of thinking and understanding and all knowing. And I was given this confirmation that Christ's consciousness was coming back to earth, and it was coming back way sooner than any of us ever thought.
Yep.
And my mom point blank looked at me and said, "Honey, I think you need to stop going down these rabbit holes and conspiracy and get back to reality."
Yeah.
And it's like, in that moment, it was just so devastating because it's so easy. It's so easy for them to coin us, well, that's just a conspiracy theory. Well, shit, you know what? Do you even know what a fucking conspiracy theory is?
Right,
Do you even know
with the CIA and everything else. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Like, come on.
Exactly. It's so funny that you say that. You know, because one of the big things you're hitting a lot of nails right on the head for us, and it's definitely resonating with us because for us specifically, the thing that we awakened to, and we awakened to this, I want to say roughly about two-ish years ago, a little over 2 years, because that's when we started our YouTube channel. First we discovered what Christ consciousness was. Then we started getting messages about how to explain it to people and prove that it not only existed, but how to show people it. And so now we've been on this quest. We're actually writing our first book collectively together, and right now, as it's outlined, it has 72 chapters. So it is going to be long, and it's going to start from thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely let you know when we're done with it. It probably will take us all a year, but we've already started writing. We have a number of chapters already, probably about nine chapters, 10 chapters done with the introduction. We're still hammering it out and still working on it, but I'll tell you this: it's been a journey to understand this, and we're looking into the aspects of like the anatomy of the human body, and we're actually finding ways to prove that Christ consciousness exists within each individual. Now,
in our DNA.
Absolutely. It's within the DNA, it's within the mind, it's within
exactly.
It's within every aspect of the human body, and you can actually explain it scientifically, and you can actually look through so many different people, Paracelsus and Hippocrates and Manly P. Hall and all the George Carey and Thomas Burgoyne and all these people who wrote about these great truths within the human body who have been basically silenced, or they were
either killed or silenced or censored or what have you.
Exactly. Yep. And so we're compiling it together, and we're hoping that when this breaks, it's going to be able to awaken people to, not only what the ancients knew about being humans, but also everything in the modern era and how to survive this awful, as you put it, this fear-ridden campaign to destroy our consciousness. So beautifully well said. I'm going to stop talking because I know that I will talk forever, and I'm going to pass it back to Tyler because I know he still has questions. I will talk forever if I keep going on this.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you before about the Christ consciousness, because we refer to it as like the sacred secretion, because it's it's just what we've been doing. We like Matt said, we discovered it 2 years ago when we started the YouTube channel. Have you been able to like experience it or practice it?
No. So this part's actually really new to me. This is a part that I am wanting to get a better understanding for. And so maybe actually you guys can help me with my understanding of this and going deeper and understanding better. Sure. At first, it was just brought to my attention Christ consciousness, right? A level of consciousness and vibrating at a frequency and energy that is higher, that is of love, that is of light, abundance, gratitude, the highest white light,
Mm-hmm.
The highest vibrating energies you can get, ascending into that 5D. But to me, that I don't totally understand that yet. And so sacred secretion, that's new to me. And I would love to learn more about that.
I mean, I can go into it a little bit if you'd like. I will talk forever on it, but I will try to condense it.
Give me a synopsis, yeah.
There's a biological process that you can take advantage of that happens roughly once a month, and by doing so, you're raising your vibrations. And you can do it all the time, but your body undergoes mitosis basically once every month for roughly about a week period every month. That's why and it goes based off of the lunar cycles. So the sun and the moon play very major aspects in this. In the same way that you go outside and you take in sunlight, you're also taking in moonlight. The moon controls the tides. Your body is majority made out of water, so the moon controls your body to some extent. So every month or month, because the months are named after a lunar cycle, 28 point something days. Your body's actually healing itself. Now, the reason that they have alcohol and all this other shit on every corner is because when your body becomes acidic, you can't really take advantage of this process. So having a pH balanced alkaline body basically is the progenitus for the culmination of this process. But it has a lot to do with basically utilizing the fluids within the body and the timings of the month. And if you do it all the time, like we're trying to practice, it's hard, but if you do it all the time, you take the fullest advantage of it. But it's the same way that a woman has a menstruation cycle. Including men, every person has this cycle within them, and it's very heavily tied to the menstruation cycle in a woman, where their body's healing, and when you heal properly and you heal to the fullest extent, you raise the Taurian field, the vibrational field around your being. So the higher you raise those vibrations, the healthier your body, the healthier your lifestyle, the healthier your mental capabilities and aptitude, and the higher your spirituality, things of that nature. By understanding Christ, and being, I guess that you could say at a very basic level, the best Christian that you can possibly be, you can still take advantage of this process if you have the right mindset. The problem is that the churches don't teach the right mindset. They don't teach exactly what you're supposed to do. They make excuses like you can go to church and throw the money and take your cracker and your juice and then you're blessed by God and yada yada. It doesn't really work that way. It's about physical practices and meditations and prayers, raising those vibrations, being eternally grateful. But it's also, at a deeper sense, it's a bodily function. There's bodily functions that, and it's all encompassing. I mean, your kidneys, your liver, your spleen, your thymus gland, your brain, your spinal column, your genital region, your sacral pump at the base of the spine. All of this takes into play a culmination of chemicals, which we call the sacred secretion, which, if utilized properly, go into your brain and release cerebrospinal fluid to help heal your brain, which heals your body, which assists in keeping your vibrations high so that you don't get bogged down by fear and stuff like that. You're already utilizing it, whether you know it or not. It's just something that you may not have all the knowledge of it, but nobody does. I mean, not even we do. We're really trying to crack the code. But but when you get down to the depths of the anatomy, there's all these different chemicals that are released, and they combine, and then they move throughout your body, and they heal your body. And when they heal your body becomes more alkaline. You release more of these different chemicals. Like your brain will release anti-aging hormones compared to where normally it will release aging hormones. If you take control of this process, it will release anti-aging hormones, and then you raise your vibrations, and then you're closer to God. And that is basically a very bad 6-minute nutshell of the sacred secretion.
It's incredible though. It makes perfect sense. And when you're talking, I know that you're speaking truth because I can literally feel it inside my body.
Yes, and what's funny is everybody feels that way.
Descriptive words. I feel it inside my. It's just, you guys, this stuff is awesome. It's just so cool to me.
Yeah,
I just wish more people had the idea of just hearing it out. Like, just listen.
Yep.
Just listen and use your own discernment. Right? That's used in the church so often, especially in the Mormon religion. Discernment. You used your own discernment to discover and to come to your own truth, whether or not it is of truth or whether or not it's not, you know? So,
I mean, the big proof, I think, the thing that really kind of hit home for us was, if you look at a hospital, you've seen that double twisted symbol, like with the rod, right? Like it's a stick and then it's two intertwined.
Yeah, which is awful.
Yeah. That symbol is actually them basically laughing in your face that they know about this and you don't, and that's why you're coming to the hospital to get pills when you could be taking advantage of this energetic process in your body. The two intertwined symbols that are going up the stick, that's actually energy going up your spinal column, and the wings that. Right, and the wings at the top, it's the staff of Mercury, it's the caduceus, it's the staff of Hermes. It's taking advantage of the wisdom and the love aspects. That's what the two That's what the two spirals represent. It's taking advantage of love and wisdom to combine them, and then having an illuminated or enlightened brain, which is what the wings represent.
Okay.
So yeah.
With that being said, med beds, the technology and the patents that we have for med beds that have been suppressed for so long due to, quote, national security reasons, bullshit.
Right.
Med beds, is that taking advantage of these biological processes that help?
So which type of med beds? Because I know that there are the types where like you sit in them and you spin, and then there's also types where you're sitting in water. Which ones are you talking about?
I don't actually know. I haven't looked into the patents and the technology yet regarding med beds. I just have the understanding that we do have the technology already, that it heals our bodies from all of the illnesses and diseases.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you can kill. They already proved this. You can kill cancer with vibration.
100%.
So I mean, I haven't looked into that specifically itself. I've heard of those, but I only know of like there's somewhere you basically are in water and there's like audible frequencies that are played, or there's some that spin in certain directions which assist with blood flow and stuff.
Maybe through certain vibrations or frequencies, or a combination of that and electromagnetic energy. There's some way to make your body hyper alkaline. Because I think the guy who won Nobel Peace Prize, I can't remember his name, for his research into cancer, said that no disease, including cancer, can exist in an alkaline environment.
Right.
Dr. Stevie. Yeah.
Yes, that I think you're right, and actually there have been guys who have proven how to get rid of cancer through audible frequencies, because cancer can't exist at low vibrations.
Right, and with an alkaline body.
Right.
Oh.
Right. So basically what we're saying is the sacred secretion is a natural way to raise your vibrations rather than an external means. So you can do it internally, which is actually better than externally. So because internally it's much more difficult to change that unless you're, consuming garbage and drinking alcohol all the time, or, what have you. So what we're trying to do is teach people how to take advantage of that, because if you can do that and each individual can raise their vibrations, guess what? We reach Christ consciousness. We reach that full pinnacle point of consciousness. And everybody can do it regardless of race or gender or background or poverty level or anything. It does not matter. Every single person, this is a gift that was given to you by God as when you look into like the lost wisdom of like the Freemasons and what they were really trying to guard and what they lost as far as their wisdom goes. This is what that is. It's this raising of the vibrations, and they lost that wisdom because they just stopped caring about it, or maybe those people were killed or taken over or whatever. But that is the truth. And what the ugliness to it is you can manipulate this process to lower your vibrations as well by being negatively minded, by not taking care of yourself, by not exercising. We do a lot of yoga. We do a lot of meditations and prayers, and that kind of stuff helps. So, yeah.
Well, that's why it's, like speaking of COVID, for instance, it was always about your health. It's always about your health. But, we're just looking out for your health. Bullshit. If it was ever about our health, like to a cellular level, if it was ever about our health, you would have banned McDonald's, Taco Bell, but you would have banned all fast food, because that shit is literally poison for our bodies. Like, it is what keeps us vibrating at those low frequencies. Alcohol. I'm going to admit, I still enjoy alcohol here and there.
Yes, of course.
It's exactly what you're saying. It's incredible.
Well, that was when I realized that it wasn't about health, because I was genuinely concerned at the start of it, because I worked at a liquor store at the time. I was genuinely concerned that I was going to have a job. Come to find out that no, it's considered an essential business, and in
what fucking world is alcohol considered essential?
The best, and I use that term loosely, explanation was, if we cut people off, a lot of people are going to go through withdrawals, and then those people are going to end up in the hospital and take away hospital resources and bed and materials away from the people who actually need it for COVID, which is complete horseshit.
Yeah. Not only
suicide rates have skyrocketed. I think some 36 or 40% since the beginning of the pandemic, whatever you call it. More people have died from freaking suicides, you guys, than that stupid fucking virus.
I know. You're 100% right. And not only that, but you're 100% right. Not only that, but when I talk with people who are, people who are vaccinated or people in my family who just don't get it. They're like, oh, well, you can't shut down the liquor stores because then all the parents are going to go crazy. It's like they make excuses for this shit. And I'm like, you don't, like, do you realize you sound like an alcoholic? Like, do you realize?
Do you realize you sound absolutely ridiculous?
Yeah, right. But we're the crazy ones. But we're the crazy ones.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I mean, you could put so much proof in front of these people's faces. You could show them the contradicting science out there, that they're speaking their own selves, like Dr. Fauci, for instance. That man has talked out of the left and the right side of his mouth since day one.
Mm-hmm.
And you can physically show these people that information. And it's like, oh, well, but it's just about our health.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I think a lot of people are just incapable of entertaining the idea that the powers that be would do something like bad on purpose. It's always either incompetence or you just don't understand. Things are really hard.
And what a childlike rose-tinted glasses mentality that is.
It's blissful ignorance is what it is. It's easier to live in the world that they've grown up in and live in because it doesn't cause friction and that cognitive dissonance, Right. So it's just, it blows my mind at the kind of stuff that they've gotten away with, and they've just said, just follow the science. What science are you talking about?
There's literally no science. There's nothing that they can provide.
Well, that's the new science, capital S. It's the new church.
Yep.
Straight up.
Yep. It's the new religion.
Oh, 100%.
It's a cult.
Like, for instance, the emails from Dr. Fauci that prove everything that we were trying to scream months and months ago.
I'm so glad you brought those up. I'm so glad you brought those up. Please. Yeah. Because everything in those emails proved that what we were saying a year and a half ago was valid, and all these people are stupid and they can't do research.
The media was calling us conspiracy theorists and calling us just absolute loony bins and just screaming down our throats that there's no way that it came from a lab in Wuhan and blah, 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 and this and that. Like, now they're all, oh, well, maybe it could come from a lab.
Oh, my God.
Maybe hydroxychloroquine could have worked. No, it fucking works. It works.
These people, I've actually talked with people in the last couple of weeks about these emails where I'm like, hey, so how about that? And we try to do it in a very non-combative way because we understand that these people are child-minded and they don't understand things. So I'll be very, very, subtle with them. Like, so, hey, did you see those Fauci emails? Yeah, I saw them. I was like, well, what did you think about this? A lot of this stuff being exposed. They don't care. They completely ignored it. And I'm like sitting here thinking to myself, I've been saying the same shit that this guy was saying in his emails a year and a half ago. From day one, I was saying the same fucking shit. Yep. And yet you people called me stupid, you called me crazy, you said I wasn't looking at the science, and yet you had no evidence. Selfish, right. All this garbage. Exactly. And really, what it comes down to for me at the end of the day is these people choose to live the lives.
It's a blissful ignorance, and in some forms it's intentional ignorance.
Yes. Oh, for sure. I wish I could live in the reality that these people live in. My life would be.
Me too. It sounds way better.
Oh yeah, I bet I would feel so much better about my life. Drinking all the time and eating the shit food that they eat, and just going along life like, oh, I'm gonna work my standard 9 to 5 until I'm buried in a grave somewhere. That's my life. That's life.
I know. I tell Clayton all the time. I'm like, I will be damned if I work a 9 to 5 for the rest of my life. You just wait. Like,
exactly.
I'm paying my dues now because I have to, when I actually enjoy what I do and I'm making a difference in what I do in my job as far as natural healing goes. It blows my mind, you guys. It blows my mind, the stuff that they've gotten away with. And like you said, they just turn a blind eye. It's so okay for them to see that, hey, by the way, Dr. Fauci, since day one, has known that these type of masks don't actually work, and they are very harmful to your health if you wear them for too long.
Yep, that's exactly
And a year and a half has gone by, and you people are still okay with, with that lie? What do you mean?
I know.
I still see people driving around. I live in Utah, you guys. We're a red state here, and we're out of the pandemic, right? All businesses are open, everything like that. And I still see people driving around in their cars with their masks on.
I see it too.
I'm like, what are you doing? COVID was 100% a political cover-up for the biggest financial collapse in the history of our world.
Oh, 100%. And not only that, but playing into that 2030 thing, the one thing I'm keeping my eye on, this might be something that, it might be a little bit out there, but the one thing I'm keeping my eye on from what I've seen people have been talking about in the last, actually 20 years, it's in 2029, Comet Apophis. And it's It's
Really?
it's a comet that is on course to potentially hit the Earth in the year 2029, I believe, in April. Now, here's the weird thing about this. Normally, comets get these very strange names like CO253, whatever. This one's just called Apophis, which is named after a god of primordial chaos in Egyptian ideology. And also, when you look at the timings for things such as the Mayan calendar, I think it's the fourth coming of the Mayan calendar, they say that we're supposed to be hit by rocks. And then you look into the metaphysics of it, and you start to find what the ancients said about comets hitting, and a lot of the time they depicted them as dragons. So you have like Apollo versus what is it? It's Marduk versus Tiamat, or Apollo versus Python, and they're all, a lot of these names like Tiamat and Python, they're named after cobra or dragon-like beings. So basically, I have this theory. I don't know if it's going to be 2029, but this comet is very large. It passes us every, I think, 7 or 8 years, and 2029, they speculated it was going to hit us, and then, of course, they said, no, it's not going to hit us, don't worry about it. But I find it odd that there's this huge agenda for depopulation by the year 2030, because it could be all into play where they believe there's going, and it might not even be that comet, but there might be some kind of cosmic or like external stimuli that happens that affects our Earth, and then maybe many people will die, and they're going to pick up the scraps, and they're going to try to assume total control through the chaos. That is a speculation that I have. I think that there's a reason why they picked that year. I don't think it's just because they picked the year 2030. I think there's something that they think is going to happen that is out of every human being's control. It could be the return of the Christ consciousness. It could be anything. It could be a solar flare. It could be comets. It could be anything. That's a theory I'm working on. I think that there is something deeper to that year. I think there's a time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I know Tyler said that he still had some follow-up questions, so I'll pass it back to him.
Sure.
Yeah. I know that we had there's just more stuff about the political implications and stuff, because I kind of wanted to get your scope of things. Rich, do you have one?
I have a little question. Yeah, we'll I guess change gears back to more political stuff. Are you familiar with this? Because I just learned about it recently, so I don't know too much about it. And I'm not really good at reading legal documents. But do you know anything about this Leon, whatever, that was apparently taken out against the U.S. for $14.3 quadrillion in 2011? I think it was. I think I showed you this, right, man?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Have you?
No.
Apparently, it's from... somebody pulled it off of, I think the main place is the Department of State for the state of Maryland, or their main government site. But apparently it's $14.3 quadrillion lien taken out against, I believe the debtors are the United States Department of Defense and the North American Power and Water Alliance. I think that's the name of the organization. And it's and on the collateral or whatever they're taking out, they claim the amount of money, the $14.3 quadrillion, which is like a stupid number. And also it says on the document, all limbs and legs is the terminology they use? All limbs and legs of all men, women, and children in the United States. And also all land.
What?
Yeah.
We find some very interesting docs.
I thought of it when you were mentioning, because I know about the Organic Act of 1871, like loosely, and I know about the whole weird terminology changes with corporations and stuff when they made DC its own like country that ruled over everything as like a form of a corporation.
On statehood. Mm-hmm.
And then you had mentioned the U.S. corporation going bankrupt, and that's where Joe Biden is CEO of basically a defunct, dissolved corporation, and that's why they have this whole, military barricade around D.C. because that's like their last holdout, or
I think that
what
recently
have you.
Got flipped. Yeah.
So I was just curious because I like to find this stuff because then people can't they can't say anything about it because you're like. Okay.
No, I actually would be really interested to perform some due diligence on that.
We'll try to send you something.
You can email me. that's like my bread and butter, man. I will for sure go in there and perform some legal due diligence and see what I can find, especially if you said, like you said, it came from, what was it, Maryland's that database, like their legal database.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to Tyler right now to send your way.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Because I definitely know that there was, with implementing GASARA and NESARA, there is the military, like with Trump, they were going in and seizing all of the money. Like, for instance, the Vatican blackout that happened.
Yes, I was saying this back in February, and people didn't want to hear it.
Oh, no. We're crazy.
We're crazy. We're the crazy ones. Exactly. Yeah, I was telling people why.
All of the diamonds, all of the jewels, all of the pallets of money that have been hoarded.
It was something like $300+ trillion worth of stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Not to mention, I don't know if you guys ever heard about when Barack Obama was leaving the White House, he took, I think, 15 pallets of cash with him to help fund for the next several years the cabal and the deep state and everything that was going on to try and impeach Trump and get Trump back out of office.
Oh, my God.
As part of Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2021.
Right.
He needed that money, and Obama was by far the most corrupt president to ever sit in office.
100. You don't gotta tell us that. You don't gotta tell us that.
That is pure evil.
Reptilian
evil, you guys.
For sure. It's hilarious to me, actually, because so many people think he's just this absolute darling, but I think he's the perfect example of he can do deplorable things, but he talks nice, and I like him, so I won't care look into it.
Sheep's clothing, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I still have really good. Here's the thing too. What I don't like is when people say things like, "Oh, well, you need to get educated. You need to get educated." All right, listen. I have friends. I know people who are of the highest education. You have a JD. You have master's degrees, doctorate degrees. You have people who are highly educated. Some of the most brilliant people I know, who are my friends and who I work with as well, as educated as you can get on a subject matter, and yet they're not informed.
Right.
And so I hate when people are like, you need to get educated, you need to get educated. No, it has nothing to do with education. Like I said, some of the most brilliant people I know are Democrats and still believe this and still believe that Obama was the best president. Michelle Obama was the best first lady to ever step foot in the office. But they're not informed.
Oh yeah, and 100%. Part of that, I think, is because the further you go into that whole political sphere in the education system, like, let's say you're going for your PhD. Well, in order for you to fully get your PhD, you have to suck the dick and believe everything that they tell you, and what they tell you is analogous with. And it's similar to everything that the media is perpetuating. So for you to question anything in the media is for you to also question the 8 or 10 years of indoctrination that you took part of. So you're forced automatically, like you said, cognitive dissonance. You're forced to just no, that's not true. That's not true. I know people.
I learned in college that's not true.
I'll tell you flat out. I got a member of my family who went to school for nursing, and I was trying to explain to her some parts of the human body, and she pulled out this fucking basic 101 textbook and started trying to school me, and I said, "Oh yeah, you want to do that? I'll pull out my entire book on the anatomy of the human brain and spinal column, which is way more detailed than yours, and you don't do anything with your degree anyway, so I have absolutely no idea where you come off thinking that your brightly colored 101 textbook even pales in comparison. I mean, it's like no, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's stupid Neanderthalic thinking. Well,
that's exactly. Well, you guys know it all flows up to Rockefeller,
yeah,
right?
I know, yeah, because he's got his fingers in all the medical institutions, all the education systems.
Money into all the educational systems with the one stipulation: you push my education and you push my pharmaceuticals.
Yep.
And that's exactly what they did. Western medication took over. Holistic medication was thought of as some witch doctor woo-woo crazy stuff, and that's the education they pushed through medical schools and through the education system, and that was that, and that's the education that's pushed through colleges and trade schools and whatever. It's unreal to me. I went to college for 6 years of my life.
You would definitely like George W. Carey. He's one of the main guys that talks about the sacred secretion, because he is very, very vehemently against modern medicine, and he'll talk about doctors being quacks and they're really just giving people poisons, and that more often than not they're just as surprised as the patient when the poison cures them instead of kills them.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that you guys, that's just, oh, that makes me ill to think about. I just can't. I finally have moved over to, if there's one thing I'm doing right, it's that I now am completely holistic when it comes to medication.
Yes.
And things like that. And
oh, I don't trust doctors.
I don't either. I don't either.
I'm sorry.
I wish people could see those truths, when the educational system shifted to what it is now, back when Rockefeller was at his prime and giving all the money as loans to these people and to these organizations and businesses and corporations. Like it just blows my mind. The kind of deceit that's been going on, and it's.
I think people make the assumption that like to be at a point where you're a medical doctor, you have to be able to like replicate and prove through your own logic and skill and experience the stuff that's taught in the textbooks in the schools, but it's like that's not the case at all.
They're learning things from the 60s and they don't get updated very, very
it's generation after generation of I was taught what the generation before me was taught, and the only reason I have to think that it works is because they told me that it works.
And they're not looking into anything that is opposing those viewpoints. I mean, I'll give you a great example. This is something that I kind of pointed out, and it's a little metaphysical too. It has a little bit to do with astrology. But do you know what the other than abortions, of course, do you know what the number 1 and number 2 killer of most people in the country is? Not COVID, of course, but generally it's heart disease and cancer.
Yep.
Right. So it's those two. Well, okay. Heart disease and cancer, the heart is ruled by the zodiacal sign of Leo, which is generally known as the month of August, which is ruled by the sun. Cancer, which is the month of July, and both of those are Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar. July is the month of the moon, and it is in correspondence with the sign of Cancer. So basically, the simple explanation is this. If you don't live in accordance with the energies from the sun and the moon, if you don't get adequate sunlight, right? We're like plants. We need sunlight. You can't sit in a room all day long and not get any sun. You need to get some sunlight. You need to enjoy the positive rays of the sunlight. But there's also the lunar energies, which house more of the inner workings. It's the internal. It's a lot of. I mean, cancer is just when your body attacks itself. So right. It's not from an external stimuli. Cancer is when your body attacks itself based off of the things that to some degree it's what you put into your body, but it's also your own personal choices. So it's also your thought processes. And as the ancients believed, the moon controlled the mind, which would control your thought processes. So there's actually a deeper reason why it's called Cancer, because the moon is associated with the mother, or to smother, like how the cells of your body smother other cells and give you cancer. So it's a lot of like stupid etymology and stuff like that, but
that's not stupid at all.
But it's the way that they've hidden these very simple things. I mean, those two are the largest killers of people in the world, and it really comes down to people not living in accordance with being a human being and understanding the energies that are all around us, not just the cosmic, but just energy in general. It's just not understanding that, and they plaster that big caduceus double twin serpent on the pole with the wings. They plaster that everywhere. Everybody sees that and they think hospital. But it's just them laughing in your face. You don't know what this means. You're ignorant. We're going to take your money. We're going to take your soul. We're going to take your life energy. And we're going to kill you in the process. And thanks for the $30,000 hospital bill.
Gosh.
Yes.
Oh,
so it's hidden in plain sight.
That's exactly what it is. And they do that on purpose because they have to in order to get our consent.
Right. And you say things like that and people laugh. I mean, you bring up those names and people will laugh at you. It's like, okay, then can you walk me through the back of the dollar bill?
Or you get called anti-Semitic.
Or
worse.
Exactly.
That's always hilarious because you don't even have to mention anything relating to the Jewish people. Like if you just say, I think a group of people that is really rich and doesn't care about anybody else is actually running the world. And then somebody will say, that's anti-Semitic. And it's like, I feel like you jumping to that says more about you than me when I didn't even mention that. And a lot of the time we go out of our way to point out it's got nothing to do with one particular religion or race or class. It's just a creed, and it's just we're so better than everything and everyone else that we can do with it as we please.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nuts, you guys. This stuff. Oh, we could talk about this all day.
I know, but I know that we are probably getting a little bit over on time, and I don't want to take up too much time from your day today.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Tyler, did you have any final questions that you wanted to ask Kassidy while we're here?
I think I'm good.
You're all good? Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed this. This has been a phenomenal conversation.
Yeah. And I have learned so much greatness in just this as well. So I appreciate you guys very much.
Of course. Well, we've learned a lot too. I mean, we're really just trying to make as many friends, very spiritual friends too, as possible, because at the end of the day, we have to stick together, and it's not like a us versus them thing. It's because we're trying to help as many people as we possibly can with the light of truth. That's really what it comes down to. We want people to live happy. We don't want them to live fearful. We don't want them to be paranoid and live and believe all these lies that are not designed to help them. And we just want to help them find the truth. And you are one of those truth seekers. And
yes.
I can absolutely tell. And I couldn't be more appreciative of you giving us the time and the information and the energy that you have during this call. It's been phenomenal, and I really enjoy talking to you. And if you want to do another one of these, we can absolutely do another one in the future. And you can always feel free to reach out to us too. If you find something cool or you want to ask us questions or anything like that, we're more than happy to assist anybody. So
yeah. Hey, I appreciate you guys so much too. I thank you for taking the time to sit down with me and talk about this and explain some of these things that I too am new at. And definitely send me that information you guys have on that lien, that $14.3 million lien, and I will do what I can to perform some due diligence on that, and maybe even get you guys some additional information on it too.
That'd be great. That would be so awesome.
I just need to know what I'm looking for, and I'll go find it, and I'll get there.
Of course.
I always find it.
Yeah. Thank you. Hey, I really appreciate your time again, and we're going to make sure that we send you that stuff, and just reach out if there's ever anything that you need.
Yes, I absolutely will. And let's do this again, you guys, if you have time again. And
I had a lot of fun.
And stuff. So I just scratching the surface with all of this. It's incredible what kind of information there is out there that so many people are just so asleep to.
100%. And I had a lot of fun talking with you. You're very high energy, very fun person to speak with. So thank you so much again.
Yes, you guys are great too. Thank you so much, you guys.
Oh, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Do you want to plug any of your, your
Instagram or anything?
Instagram or
well,
the Telegram?
Sure. Yeah. Will you just let people know that Patriot Kassidy Instagram account that I have?
Yeah.
I haven't been good at posting in there, but I'm gonna there a little more. And then the Telegram channel that I have. Do you guys have that?
Yeah, we're on Telegram. I'll have to check you out on there because I was watching your TikToks and your Instagram stuff.
Yeah, so we'll start with those, and then if I can get back into TikTok and try and make another TikTok account, it may be pointless at this point, but we'll see.
Okay.
So yeah, I have so much information. I just a wealth of information that I still want to share, and then I want to get in front of people. So this has been really great. I've learned a lot today too.
Thank you. We have too, and it's just about keeping up the good fight. So I love that we've made a new friend today, and if there's anything that you need, feel free to reach out. We're always willing to help.
Thank you. You guys as well.
Awesome.
I appreciate you guys very much.